I like Look Outside a lot, and if you started this video, you probably do too. For me, the main reason I like the game is probably because of all the designs of the characters. But I was thinking to myself, who are the 10 best and worst enemies in Look Outside? Then I decided 20 entries is too many for a video, so I cut it down to 14. And I mean, like, who even has, like, 10 least favorite people in general? Like, if you have, like, a list in real life of, like, 10 least favorite people, you're a psycho. 7 best and 7 worst, let's go. My only rules for this list are no party members, because like otherwise the list would just be full of party members. A lot of the recruitable characters you have the option to fight, which I guess technically would make them count as enemies, but I'm just gonna skip everyone who's recruitable. And if there's an update that adds more recruits and any of them are on this list, oops. Disclaimer also, I like all the enemies in this game, this is just a list for fun, it's just my opinion. If you don't agree with my takes, let me know or make your own list and post it. Okay, thanks, bye. 7th best. Alright, let's start the list with a possibly controversial take. I don't know if this choice will offend people, but I kind of have to put this guy on the list somewhere or I'll get crucified. So, there's a lot of hells in Look Outside. There's Rat Hell, Tooth Hell, Hell Sword. But what about Hell Ride? Hell Ride is the best car-like character in the game. There's 4 car-themed enemies in the parking garage actually, but do any of the other cars eat you and give you a timer to escape before you literally go to hell? No. This fight is multi-phase, which makes it stand out. First you have to fight a bunch of the other passengers inside. Then you have to fight the Hell windshield wiper, and the Hell steering wheel, and the Hell rear view mirror, and the Hell mattress, and the only hellish form of entertainment. Then you finally face the big car head thing as the flames of hell get closer and closer. I think this boss is super beloved by the community. I see why. I think it's a cool boss. But I don't think I'd put it any higher than this place in my list. It just doesn't appeal to me as much as some of the others. I think it's a very well-made fight programming-wise, like, I don't know how to make the background change like this in RPG Maker. Despite being a super boss, the fight is pretty easy if you have 4 party members, so maybe that's what holds it back for me. But it's still really unique and fun, so I like it. And if this is your favorite boss and you're now mad at me for putting it this low, sorry. Here's a picture of the PNG I'm using to represent myself in this video. You can punch your screen and pretend you're punching me if that helps. 7th worst. There's a lot of really great bosses in Look Outside, but they can't all be winners. To be honest, I could have filled the worst list with a bunch of random no-name enemies, but I'd rather include a few of the bosses, at least to make the list more interesting. So the question is, who's the worst boss in my opinion? This guy. The Olm is one of the most anticlimactic bosses in the game considering how cool the lead-up is, and how much I like the design. It's only found during the blackout, which is already one of the most unique parts of the game. First off, you'll notice that the dead body that's been at the bottom of the basement stairs since the start of the game is now gone. Unnerving. In real life, if I saw a dead body every day at the bottom of my apartment stairs, I'd scream. And then when it finally did get removed, I'd feel relieved. But in a video game, a dead body disappearing is always a bad sign. And here's our culprit, the Olm. I really like the intro to the battle where it speaks to you, but it doesn't really have any special attacks and it goes down really easily. The design with it being made of corpses and the idea that this massive thing has been hiding away in the basement the entire time without you knowing is really cool. But yeah, a bit of a letdown. Cool design, cool lead up, but kind of an anticlimactic boss. Sorry, Olm. 6th best. Here's a question. How many enemies on the ground floor are not ham related? Answer. Like 5? The bus crashing and the passengers attacking Mr. Henderson is really what makes the ground floor stand out. This moment and the landlord's apartment was when I realized that this game was something special. There's like 30 separate enemies just based on the concept of hands and fingers. The passengers/conscript enemies are my favorite group of enemies, but my favorite out of all these guys is the bus driver, the crawling hand. First off, the animation of him crawling out the bus is cool. Second, I talked about it in the tier list video that a ton of people watched for some reason, but I really like the headcanon that he retained his sanity for a while after becoming cursed. Memorial says that the bus driver was super focused while driving, despite everyone on the bus getting attacked. Kinda going off of how real bus drivers sometimes have flow states they reach as they drive. The fact that the bus crashes when you reach the ground floor, which is usually days after the visitor first appears, means that this guy was driving a bus during the apocalypse for days on end, while being stuck in a bus with all of these guys. Add on to that he may have even tried to crash the bus in a last-ditch effort to kill himself, and all the passengers to protect everyone else, and you have a really complicated character. Of course, that's just a theory. A game oh right, the actual boss. I really just like his design a lot. He feels like the only real boss on this floor, besides Trench Digger. Crawling Hand can also hit multiple foes at once, which means he can actually be kind of difficult in the early game. So that means you have to avoid him for a while whenever you want to go see Mutt. I just think he's neat and shows off the creativity of the game a lot. 6th worst. Speaking of fingers in the ground floor, the 6th worst enemy place goes to Centifingers. This guy pisses me off. First off, he's ugly, I don't like him. Second, he's another enemy that seems really tough, but he's actually relatively easy to beat. I mean, his battle plays the runaway theme, which is usually reserved for tough enemies. And considering he takes up the entire convenience store and it takes some effort to dodge him, you'd think he'd be more of a threat when you actually get caught by him. And third, he starts crying when he fights you. The fandom wiki says he doesn't want to fight you, but I don't buy it. Unless the enemy verbatim says to me, I don't want to fight you, I'm not going to feel bad caving their head in. All of these reasons is why Centifingers is in the worst list. If he was hotter, harder, and harsher, then I'd like him more. 5th best. Frederick's apartment is one of the standout locations from Look Outside. It's just like Ebe, except it's an art studio instead of a museum, and there's no puzzles, and there's combat, and there's no swapping characters, and there's no Gary, and there's no Mary, and there's no Ebe, and there's also a better game than Ebe, but besides all those reasons, it's just like Ebe. You maybe guessed that one of the Freds would be on this list, but which one? I only wanted to pick one Fred for the sake of variety, and there's 3 I really like. I like Wrigley Fred because he's crazy and dramatic, Toxic Fred because of the amount of dialogue and unique events he has, and Fred Who Bites because of his design. Sorry to the however many Tumor Fred fans I disappointed by not picking him. There's probably one diehard Tumor Fred fan. Anyways, I think I would have to go with Toxic Fred, though, for my pick of favorite Fred. It wasn't until I read the Look Outside wiki, also huge shout out to the wiki for how detailed and how much dialogue it has written down, and read how much unique scenarios Toxic Fred has with you. You can put on the cowboy hat he created and get controlled by him to fight the other Freds, where he actually helps you and reveals that Face Taker is an imposter, or you skip picking up the cowboy hat and make him mad, or you can pick up the cowboy hat and not wear it and make him mad, which is what I did in my first playthrough. Or you can pick up the cowboy hat, put on a different cowboy hat that you thought was his hat, and make him mad, which is what I did in my second playthrough by accident. Or you can take the hat, sell it, and then come back and make him mad. And in my favorite scene, purposely look away when he threatens you by splitting in pieces. I'm lame anyways, and I always leave the real Frederick alive. But one day I'll get Wrigley Fred to move in with me. One day. Why didn't I pick him to be on the list if I want him so badly? I don't know. Next! 5th worst. One thing I really like about Look Outside is how there's nothing sexual in the game. That was the main reason I never tried Fear and Hunger, because like the enemies in that game, I have erotophobia. But in Look Outside, there aren't any enemies based around weird fetishes or anything. Like, there isn't any weird foot fetish stuff despite there being a whole cast of enemies themed around hands, and there isn't any vor. Well, I guess there is, and there isn't any nudity. And for a game about body horror, not having any enemies based on genitalia is really nice. Well, except for Marcus, but speaking of Marcus, the Meat World organs are a pretty gross gang. While I really like the mechanic of fighting each organ to weaken Sybil, the bosses on their own are all pretty easy since they all have one unique attack. However, they're all disgusting, and Caitlyn is the grossest. Ow! Disgusting. I hate it. If my liver looked like that, I'd probably dissociate and turn into a bunch of flesh piles around my apartment building too. Liver, more like, I'm gonna die-er. That's my joke. Do you like my joke? Maybe you should smash that like button and hit that bell to become a member of the Spiders. That's what I call my 4th best. My 4th favorite enemy pick is the Hydra, or Jean. First off, this image is one of my favorites in the entire game. If I saw a lady in a trench coat and she flashed me and I saw this, I'd probably end my life right there. Jean is really interesting to me because she's still trying to live normally when you first find her, as if she's trying to downplay the severity of what's happened to her. She just wants you to get her clothes from the laundromat for her. Bad news, there's kind of a worm loose down there. There's not really too many other characters in the game where you actually get to see them mutate with time, which makes her stand out. There's the Tooth family, there's Charlie and Marvin, but besides them, Jean is the only other one I can think of that actually has a condition that worsens with time. Eventually, the other heads growing off of her start eating other people, and she's powerless to stop them. The idea of being unable to control your own body as it eats other people, and being able to taste what the other heads taste is a really effective piece of horror. Luckily, you can save her by killing each head, which allows her to slowly regain control of her body. You can even give her laundry back in a really nice scene that shows despite how far she's mutated that she's still herself. Never mind the fact that she's literally like 1 billion feet long now and probably weighs like 1 million pounds and can probably never leave her apartment. Maybe she'll get more control over her body and will be able to move around. That would be nice. The fact then that you can do this whole side quest to save Jean and help her, but the fact Charlie can't be helped at all is tragic. This is still the grossest image in the game. I hate it. I mean, it's like cool, but it's disgusting. That would have been a good review for this game. Better than the actual Steam review I left. 4th worst. Alright, now I'm at the point in my worst enemies ranking where it comes down to random enemies that piss me off. Number 4 is Gazer. I mean Glance, this is the same audio. A lot of them are just organs or body parts. I think I find the other enemies more interesting because you can tell they're people in these unfortunate and pain mutations. It feels unfortunate that you're fighting them. But these Meat World guys, I don't even know if these are people or just things Sybil made. And this Gazer guy looks like Mike Wazowski if he started growing human skin and more limbs. If this thing came out of my closet in the middle of the night and started doing unfunny stand-up, I'd probably kick his ass. 3rd best. The fungal lair is my favorite area in the game. I love the music, the labyrinth design with the fungus, and best of all, the way it messes with your head. I was so excited when I found out you could upgrade your apartment. That seemed like such a cool mechanic. You have to appreciate though that Philippe and these other fungus guys went through so much effort to trick you, even making a whole fake card game, but then Philippe can't be bothered to keep track on whether or not he's calling the Spore Mother a princess or a queen. My immersion was ruined. I know he's lying now. Oh right, the Spore Mother. She's the boss of the area. She's one of the only bosses that uses this quiet theme called Dawning. It makes the fight kinda eerie. Like, if the song played Run Away, you would be like, yeah, let's kill this fungus thing, but if it plays this theme, it's more like, I don't know about this, blah blah blah. The quiet theme works more when you first see the queen and she's like a hallucination thing. You see this form if you absorb any of the spores before facing her. But the theme continues playing even after, and to me it just feels eerie. The way it's so quiet and the way that this pillar surrounded by corpses just stands there with its eyes closed. I like it. Cool area, cool boss. Plus, you get to kidnap and raise your kid as your own, so that's nice. Philippe, you may be the worst party member in the game, but I still love you. You were there for me in my first playthrough where Papineau and I missed literally every chance to recruit other party members, and I struggled to make any progress. 3rd worst. The underwater apartment is a really cool location, probably my favorite after the fungal lair. The fact, too, that you can only explore it at the end of the game once you've unlocked the elevator really makes it stand out to me and feel like a penultimate part of the game. And it shows that the game still has time for these really spectacular and unique set pieces. However, the enemy cast in this underwater apartment is a little... Most of them are alright, but like... Shark? What is this? Octopus? What is this? But my actual least favorite is Crab. It's just a crab. It doesn't even have any cool transformations the other ones have, like the dragonfish and jellyfish, where they change appearances as they get closer. No, this guy's just a crab. 2nd best. So I mentioned that there's a lot of hells in Look Outside, but there's also a lot of worms in Look Outside. There's the worm, there's the garbage worm, there's the meat worm, there's the worm dance, and then there's Rafta. I still don't entirely know if Rafta used to be a person, or if she's always been a worm, but either way, playing matchmaker and setting her up with Nestor doesn't go well for him. As soon as she infects him, he immediately dissociates into worms. Worm head, worm hand, worm leg, worm body, worm vendor. There's actually dialogue for if Nestor doesn't go to Rafta that allows you to get infected instead. It states that you realize your body has always been worms, so it's like getting infected by her causes your body to instantly mutate and turn into worms. Those worms then seek to infect other people, like Eugene, and that guy in the toilet whose name I can never remember. Like Toxic Fred, Nestor also has a lot of unique events depending on whether or not you fight the body parts. The head especially has a bunch of scenarios based around Eugene. I genuinely can't believe how much content is in this game. When I first played it, I probably only saw about 10% of what the game has to offer. Another huge shout out to the Look Outside wiki for having so much detail and entire transcriptions of the game's text. 2nd worst. The 2nd worst enemy pick is another crab. This time, it's Traffic Crab. What is this? What am I looking at? Like every other enemy in the game is humanoid or an animal, but this thing is like... I don't even know what this thing is. It looks like if Aoni made a child with a traffic cone. I should really play Aoni someday, considering RPG makers are like my favorite game genre. Throw it on the list of RPG Maker games I need to play next to Amori and The Coffin of Andy or whatever it's called. Actually, maybe I can skip that one. Anyways, number 1 best enemy. Let's be honest, floor 3 of the apartment building sucks to live on. Sam really lucked out. You have a room that's completely frozen, a room that's filled with evil taxidermy, a room full of teeth, Sybil's apartment, and no one here knows what light switches are. Why is every room so dark? Oh wait, this one's pretty nice. And look, it even looks like we're welcome in. What's that? Turn the lights off. Yeah, I guess saving power is a good idea. The Stargazer, to me, is the antithesis of Look Outside. Edwin was just an ordinary person who began mutating from the Visitor, but unlike the others, he became cursed long before the Visitor came to Earth. You can actually read the notes to see the deterioration over time. He began to like his new form, and saw people who entered his apartment as wrong in some way. He attempted to remake them to look better, and you're now one of those people. You can't see him when the lights are off, but you can see him following you as he opens doors behind you. First off, I think this is the only enemy in the game that follows you across rooms. I might be wrong, I spread a lot of misinformation. But the idea that this giant monster is right behind you and can't touch you unless the lights are off is such a cool idea. Plus, he doesn't even want to kill you per se. Most enemies want to, but this guy thinks he can make you better. The way the fight slowly starts as the eerie music fades in, it's great. And I love the design. He doesn't have any teeth or any claws or weapons, but you can still tell he's going to beat your ass. He's beautiful, but wrong. It was when I played this part of the game that I realized Look Outside is truly something special. That is why Stargazer is the best enemy in the game, in my opinion. Well, that's a nice way to end things. Oh wait, there's still the worst enemy. I can guarantee none of you will expect who my pick for the worst enemy is. It is Drainfly. Drainfly. Does anyone even remember this enemy? No one on the wiki seems to like him. You fight 3 of them in the sewers and that's it. The one thing I like about them is that they do the same thing some of the underwater enemies do, where they transform as they get closer. But that's it. They're just flies. But the real reason they're in here is because I had never heard of a drainfly until playing this game. Then I started seeing them in real life at my place of work. I'm gonna show some pictures of toilets coming up, trigger warning or content warning for that. So, this looks like a normal picture of a urinal, right? But zoom in and enhance. Look, it's Drainfly. Look, another image. It's a nice windowsill next to a toilet. But what is that? Drainfly again. Here's another image of a toilet. Look, you might call me crazy for taking all these pictures of toilets, but I'm not crazy. Look, see, there he is. He's swimming around in piss, disgusting Drainfly. And look at this picture, Drainfly. And look at this one, Drainfly. And look at this picture of the assassination of JFK, Drainfly. And look at this picture of the Last Supper, Drainfly. Drainfly betrayed Jesus. And look at this picture of a Drainfly, Drainfly. I'm not crazy. Drainfly's escaped the game, is now loose in the real world. Drainfly gets real. And if the Drainfly got real, what's to stop the other characters from getting real? What if frickin' Steve shows up at my house and starts eating my bandages? I'd probably blow my top if that happened. Anyways, that was my list. If you watched till the end, let me know if you agree with my takes or if you think I'm wrong and stupid. And let me know if you want more Look Outside videos. Bye.